Last episode, we entered one of the greatest minds to ever do it in breaking. Kid David is also more than a b-boy. He's one of the few from the community to transcend the breaking community into film and into choreography on the world's stage. His quest for a peak expression of dance was surely supported by his multidisciplinary lifestyle in art and outside of art. Today's guest would hate to be confined to a single title as well, which seems to be a theme on this show with the guests we've met. Nick Monica owns restaurants, but would definitely hate to hold only the restaurateur moniker or entrepreneur title. Not only do I enjoy dining at Nick's restaurant, I just love who he is and what he's up to. Bumping into him on our bikes in Venice is a reminder for me to keep pushing it in business and also to create a lifestyle of joy and creativity. When I first met Nick, we had a similar orbit, and I remember being drawn to this unspoken thing that entrepreneurs share. It's that feeling that doesn't really require words, when you kind of look across the room at another founder and you know that they are also living at the edge. Nick was doing that in a big way in the neighborhood with the opening of Companion, his restaurant just south of us here on Lincoln Boulevard. It was all mutual respect and knowing that we were in it. You know, they say early stage investors often talk about investing in founders over their ideas. And Nick Monica is one of those people that will find a way to win, and he'll do it with remarkable integrity. I'd bet on him to accomplish anything, and I hope you enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Nick Monica. Dude, thanks for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you. We're known for the hard-hitting questions right out of the gate, you know. So what I have for you is an unresolved big question for society, which is pineapple on pizza? Yes or no? You know why I'm asking you that.
This is a loaded question for me, but historically, no.
Mm-hmm.
Presently, yes.
Yeah, so say more about that.
So I'm historically anti-pineapple on pizza. Yeah. I'm a margarita pizza, pepperoni, sausage. I'm good pretty much on those three. And then I just am so in awe of our chef at Companion at our restaurant. He's just, his name's Jack Good. And I just, not to be, I can't give him too many flowers, but I think everything that dude cooks is incredible. And he made a Hawaiian pizza, and he made me like Hawaiian pizza. So he did these candied pineapples that were ridiculous. And just this, he's just got a different way of thinking about things and compiling things. And I'm a believer now. So
100%.
I will eat Jack Good's pineapple on pizza.
Okay, good caveat. I'll double tap that, double click on that. I'll give him whatever flowers. I'm not limited to the flowers I can give him.
I suppose I'm not either, but
well, I didn't want to, there might be something there,
No, I think I give him flowers. I don't want him, I give him a lot of flowers, so I don't want them to start diluting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Economy
Wilting.
of language. It's like they all worth more.
Exactly.
There's less of them. That's actually an interesting segue. We're just going to bounce around, man. Your team. So you just mentioned Companion. Let's just kind of do the roundabout on your venues and what you got going on. So you have Companion, and you want to say a little bit about that, and then a little bit about Narwhal real quick?
Well, actually, it started with Narwhal. Yep. So about like 7.5 years ago, we launched Narwhal as an e-commerce brand, actually, and like local grocery distribution on some like 12-ounce cold brew bottles that we had. And I hustled that for a while I was working like a normal corporate job. Sort of got to a point where I've always wanted to have a restaurant, since I was in college. That was kind of always my goal. And I felt like I needed to have that practical experience of managing the like an actual cafe and learning the ins and outs of that process. So I got a job working for Espresso Cielo, which you may know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had 2 locations at the time. The idea was sort of like leave the corporate job that I had, go into this management training capacity with them, and then manage the 2 locations. Was doing that. COVID happened. All the while I'm still, hustling Narwhal, doing, being as scrappy as we can, growing this online business, even though I don't really know still to this day much about e-commerce, but did that. I was sort of just every afternoon driving Postmates and like going every time I'd find like a cool grocery store, I'd like pause the app and I'd go in and try and sell them on the cold brew. It was a cool part of my journey, honestly. And from there, COVID happened. It got weird. I was running the Main Street location for Espresso Cielo by myself because we just couldn't afford at the time to have any other employees. And it was sort of soul sucking just being like alone in that cafe. And I noticed that my ambition on the Narwhal side of my life was sort of diminishing. And so Dakota, my wife, who has made a lot of sacrifices, was like so on board with me just leaving that and going full in on Narwhal. And so did that in 2000. I quit the cafe job in 2020, maybe like 6 months after COVID. So probably like, a little like midway through 2020. And one day we're on the beach, we're deciding if we want to raise money or not to keep growing this thing that I didn't know how to grow. Kind of just like reinvesting every dollar we made. Sort of that thing is not replenishing to where it was and we're running out pretty quickly. And we go to the beach one day, I forget a towel. I'm like so over it. I just wanted to curl on the couch and just like feel sorry for myself. And one of my regular customers from the cafe during the COVID days, well, regular customers for years at Cielo, his name is Tom. Him and his husband would come in every day at 3:00. They'd get an espresso and a cortado, and then they'd go on a 3-mile walk like clockwork every day, 3:00. So we got really close, because, especially during COVID, because that was kind of our only social interaction. They were still coming in every day. And we're at this beach. I like don't want to be there. I see Tom walking. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen him since, a few months or whatever. Dakota's like, you should say hi. And I mean, you probably have gathered as much from knowing me, but it's not usually like me to not want to talk. So I was just like, I was feeling sorry for myself or whatever. I just didn't have it. But I ended up saying hi. And then of course he like walks over. I don't think he really recognized me at first, because it was kind of a little bit of a distance.
Context.
Yeah, exactly. And then he came over, he's like, oh, what's up? Can I sit with you guys? And I'm kind of like looking at Dakota, like, here we go,
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm on a soul searching walk. And I'm like, whoa, like me too, kind of, I'm on a soul searching sulk right now in the sand. And he's like, I bought that cafe. And I was like, I knew he was like, he did really well for himself, like in his career. And so did Bill. They both respectively had, amazing careers. They were retired, had a nice little compound up in Ocean Park, just a beautiful life. And I was like, why the fuck did you do that? Because I'm coming off of knowing sort of where it's at revenue wise, but also just spiritually where the space is at. And he's like, do you want to manage it? And like, not at all, but I would consider making it a Narwhal location. And he was like, he had known about the brand. He had helped me with like a couple questions that I had business related while I worked at the shop. And he was like, come over for dinner. So literally the next night we went over for dinner, and the rest is history. Like, wow. Plain and simple. Yeah. I know it's sort of a long story, so thank you for entertaining me, but I think it's important
to be totally transparent with you. I hadn't heard the story from you, but I heard some legends of it through, shout out Clark Vatier. He gave like a preview to how all that happened, and I was just curious, so I was hoping that we'd get into it. Yeah, that's an incredible gift, timing wise, man.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, and the thing, to give Tom a lot of credit, he is an operator at heart, and he pushes really hard, pushes me, and I think he makes me uncomfortable sometimes in the best way, and he doesn't really have a filter. And rest in peace to his husband, Bill, passed away last year. Was an amazing man. But, they've had a profound impact on me, both of them, together in more ways than just like money or, helping me get that space. It felt really cosmic, because the idea with the old owners of Espresso Cielo, who are still my landlords on Main Street, was to eventually take the spaces over. But I don't even think I really knew what that meant when I was like first taking that job. So yeah. And Tom also helped us with a companion, gave us a loan to start that I would have never been able to get traditionally from a bank or anything like that, even with the success of Narwhal. So yeah, just a truly community person. I mean, he's helped so many people around here. I don't even know if he'd really want me to say that,
Probably not.
yeah,
Exactly.
but, yeah.
Man, I mean, I think there's something here, so let's like explore it a bit. But I had a similar experience in creating what became Deuce. And I think that this the kind of time out I want to take on the conversation, because I think that there's something there, is I think an outside observer might look at some of the things that you've created, or maybe even the gym or whatever. They see people pull off these things that seem impossible, far away, difficult. And in my experience, and it sounds like in your experience, the universe sort of rewarded an untold amount of experiences prior to that beach walk, right? Because you're not anonymous to him.
Absolutely.
You probably showed up as the person that I know 10,000 times up until that moment. And what's interesting about that is those types of interactions feel impossible and like they're never coming. If you're not in the world that way. And I don't mean to say that in a way that's like, oh, y'all that haven't got lucky, like you're messing up.
No, I hear you.
But there's something about this, and I'm constantly reminded about this in business and life in general, is sort of all we have is our reputation. It's like all we have is like how we've been to other people.
100%.
And yeah, that's just like but of course it happened that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the other part of that is those moments are going to come to you when you're least expecting it, which is, as cliche as it sounds, could not be truer,
Yeah.
It's like a day where I would, if I wrote it up in my head, I would have never said, oh, you should do it on this beach day where I'm depressed, like, and I forgot my towel. So you just got to be ready. You got to be ready for it at any moment. I think we were laughing about that podcast that I did where I answered with like one word. The word that I used was curiosity, but I think that curiosity is actually maybe my greatest gift. And I think probably you share that, and any entrepreneur. Like, I think the ability to be curious about whatever it is, what Ernie's doing here recording us, or what you're doing here with Deuce, or what, the guy across the street does changing tires, like it all interests me. And I think that like going through the world in that way is what opens up the channel to be able to have those conversations or experiences or life-changing.
How do you know that
moments.
How did you get to the place where you have this awareness that that's your gift? I mean, have you noticed that about yourself throughout the years? What's the signal to you that's been a strength?
Maybe just like growing, like I don't know if I like had any like specific moment, but just like chipping away at yourself and noticing the things that you're bad at, or being more aware of maybe not bad at, maybe that's like diminishing a little bit, but noticing like where your weaknesses are and then like digging into them and chipping away, I think actually exposes your strengths oftentimes, And so like recently I've been writing a lot, and I think I've always like had a limiting belief on my writing. It's actually what I've always wanted to do, even like in school, always. Like I studied environmental science. I wanted to do like climate change journalism and like documentaries. That was always like what I wanted to do. And I think I've like sort of tried to figure my way around that the whole time. I, of course, told you at the beginning of this conversation, I always wanted a restaurant. I think those are the two things in my life that I've always been interested in. But I've just like suppressed writing because I didn't feel like I had anything to say. And now I like can't stop writing. And I started this Substack, and I said I'm going to do it weekly. And I really have for like 3 or 4 months now. And I have no shortage. I have like 10 drafts in there. And I've realized like that the curiosity has been the thing that I've realized. Yeah. Is like that's the source. That's my source, right? Like all these articles, like I have one that I wrote about my dog from sitting in the sun. And I just became curious about what he was thinking. And it's like, it's just like, the theme.
You're paying attention to. I mean, there's so many weird parallels, I guess, between you and I, if we try to force the connection. I mean, I also felt like I observed life for the first 23 years quietly, and since age 24, I felt like I had something to say finally, and that hasn't really run out. You know, I think I was looking the other day. I think we have 3,700 articles on the blog now, you know, and it's like, I think it just comes from paying attention to the world around you, you know? Listen, if I'm being honest, I would have assumed, it's not good to have expectations. Maybe I would have assumed that I was going to learn from you, and I still might, some like management stuff that maybe I'm not good at. I perceive you and your team have a certain gel, fun, freedom that I think is aspirational for any entrepreneur. But just a minute ago, you said you have this willingness and almost eagerness around weaknesses. How do you think about, you know, being an employer, strengths, weaknesses? I know there's a lot there, but what comes to mind as I ask you about that?
Well, it's the most challenging thing for anybody to do, I think, because at the core of it, like, you know, being an employer is just like leading a group of people. Really, that's it, that's simply put. And I think the hard part about employment is people's lives depend on this, but so does your own, you know? And so like the fucked up part about this is like I've always said we're an employee-centric business. Yeah. So like we're an employee-centric restaurant. And I still believe that and cafe. I think it's really evident when you go in there, and I've made sacrifices to the point of, you know, financial maybe missteps for the sake of like my team, or like even as recently as, you know, yesterday, Dakota posted for the first time ever that we may have to deny a time off request for the first time in 4.5 years of operating these businesses, which I think is pretty impressive. But it also is like, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, it's a very intimate thing. And I think that it's gotten more challenging for me because, you know, I want to have a kid. I want to, you know, I have goals with Dakota in my personal life. And then, you know, sometimes the pathway for a restaurant is not linear, you know, like it's seasonal in its busyness. It's, you know, we have very much like a community vibe. So being able to pay the bills, but also like having an approachable like menu pricing or something, you know, so there's so many layers to it where it can be like you have to make a tough decision with somebody that is now like a sister, or, you know what I mean? Or like a brother, and you're like, hey,
I think I know exactly what you mean.
I've got to have you do this thing, or, you know, I don't have this hour for you. It's like a dagger, you know, but
yeah.
So I think employing people has changed in my mind dramatically. Like I think I've had a hard time with it more recently than I did in the beginning, because in the beginning, like I just threw it all on my shoulders, and I'm like, I'll work every shift, open to close every day. And it's just not possible anymore to be two places at once. So I think I'm a little bit of a victim of our like growth in that way. And now have a new relationship with it. So I would say I have no idea how to do it, but, my greatest advice to myself recently, just in like a morning meditation, was just to give myself grace and just know that if I'm leading with love and I like really am moving through this thing with best interest of my team at heart, sometimes things may not shake out exactly how I or they want it to, but they'll feel that love and know that it's coming from a place of like, either I have to do it, or, you know, it's good for the whole squad and not just, you know, one person. So yeah, that's a really roundabout way of saying I have no idea what I'm doing.
I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I think that anybody observing you would beg to differ, but it's like, that's probably the truest truth, you know, is this, try to show up and do a great job today. Yeah, I mean, man, leadership in any capacity, I think, has this built-in difficulty. I should say I'm very much prone to indexing too hard on the suffering and
same here.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the signal to the you're on the right path is it's hard as shit. It's like, all right, well,
I actually am going to take that from you. Yeah, indexing on the suffering.
Please do.
That should be the name of your podcast.
Yeah, that's right. It's the name of my life. And we talk a lot about leadership here in an explicit way. We're really trying to on purpose develop that, talk about that in the world for our own selfish needs and also with other people. It's sort of the heart of the podcast. And a lot of what makes growth for the human consciousness and also just leadership in general is complexity. So when you're doing the e-com thing, maybe by yourself in the garage, difficult. Complexity's lower though. And you have group dynamics, right? And now you have a craft master chef and then employees and then you and then partners. And it's just the math of it is complexity goes up, And I think one thing that came to mind as you were talking is, I resonate with wanting to have a non-transactional work environment. Your business is similar to mine where it's not like people are just like head down, check in, clock out, whatever.
It's not 24-hour fitness.
Yeah, we're not anonymous to each other. We find that it is worth the squeeze to create a business that is sort of rooted in meaningful work and meaningful relationships. But now you're friends with these people that you also have to lead and managing all that. And I see you guys having great relationships down there, and it's got to be tough. I just really appreciate you acknowledging that.
Did you watch Yellowstone?
Dang, I haven't, but shout out Ryan Bingham's in there.
Yeah, that's true. Shout out Ryan.
Yeah. Respect.
Beast. Yeah. That show kind of, I just wrote a Substack about this. I haven't put out yet, but it kind of changed my life in a weird way.
Okay. Say more about that.
Okay. So John Dutton in this show, main character. He's
Kevin Costner?
Yeah, Kevin Costner.
Crash Davis.
Crash Davis, exactly. So he says this quote. There's so many. It's the most quotable show. I wrote so many in my phone.
Okay.
But one of them was, I never had any luck leading men and being their friend. And I was just on the couch and I'm I'm in tears, literally on the end. Dakota's like, are you okay? I'm like, it just hit me so hard because I don't necessarily believe that, but man, whoever wrote that understands something that is so real and difficult to grapple with. That's just maybe Taylor Sheridan wrote that, the writer of the show, from his experience just in life, but it fucked me up. It had me rearranging my mind because I'm friends with all of my employees, and at least on some level. And yeah, it was insane.
You said it. I don't know if I believe that either, but I think the reason why it does that is because there's a wake of evidence behind it that sort of shows that it could be true, and that's why it hurts.
Or maybe you've put trust into somebody and that trust has been broken, and so you feel the realness of that, or vice versa. Maybe someone put trust in you and you had to break it for some reason, or whatever it is. If you're being really self-aware, that fucked me up. The one that's completely unrelated to what we're talking about that I also loved was "No must be the death of the question." And I love that shit. That one got me going.
There's a little improv in that.
Yeah.
The need for yes and.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, man. This is a leadership thing, but also a bigger life thing I find that in those moments, maybe someone breaks trust or there's some sort of rupture like that we all have that choice of retreating and shutting down or vulnerably stepping back into the arena and doing the hard thing. And I don't know. I hope that folks that are in leadership choose to continue to participate,
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the most obvious and evident issue with society at large, our leadership, or the leadership of the county, of the city, of the state, of the country, whatever you're looking at, just really lacks this ability to siphon through and dig in to the hard moments, and they'll just go hide behind whatever comfort they have or whatever, money or thing that they've constructed. And I think it's really just that, exactly what you're saying, I think is like the root of like kind of this stagnant culture we're in right now. Like, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel like outside of our bubbles, the world feels really slow and sluggish, and just like we're like trotting through week after week, like we're just kind of like, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? We need more people that are like, no, this shit's hard, but we're good. I got your back, you got my back. You're a good person, I'm a good person. Let's go. Like, we just don't have that. We don't. Yeah. And maybe it's like part of it is I call it the boogie woods, the time in the garage that you're talking, like the e-commerce. That's like my name for it, from my neighbor Tony, who's been in Venice for 40 years, teacher in Malibu school district for forever, just an amazing human being. Him and his brother, they were actually powerlifters.
Right?
Tony was like a champion bodybuilder.
Crazy.
Yeah, all natural, like probably 5'6", 5'7", just still diesel like to this day, and he's still a rock. And he would tell me that when him and his brother were working on something and no one sees it, you're just out there and you're like quiet of your room or quiet of the garage and you're lifting. That's the boogie woods. That's cool. And I loved that. But I think like we need more leaders that have been in the boogie woods. So you've been in the boogie woods, right? Like I remember driving Postmates until like midnight, and then being like coming home to my then fiance and being like, I need to deposit this now to pay rent. I'm so sorry. And also, can I borrow some money for gas because I need to keep driving and I can't, it's like those are the things that I think, from like, if you've felt that, if you've been through that, or maybe it just changes and you're in it in a different way. Like I find myself right now, maybe I'm not like stressing to pay rent, but I'm still like stressing to pay the bills at a new restaurant or whatever. We just need more leaders like that have felt that.
I mean, I got to be careful not to romanticize entrepreneurship or projecting that on people. Like that's what people need to do. But I think that the theme of what you're saying is hyper present in entrepreneurship, which is this skin in the game type participation in your life.
Yeah, that's a way better way of putting it. Yeah,
like you mentioned from like a political perspective, and I would echo that back, and I'll do my best not to derail this whole podcast. But being a business owner,
sorry.
No,
you can tell what's been on my mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, it should be talked about more, I think, and this is not a poor me, poor us type of thing, but I'll say I think a true sentence, which is being an entrepreneur in this city, in this state, in this country, at this time, often makes you want to take your ball and go home. Yeah. It really does. And I say this, I know that I'm sitting across the table from a person who is willing, ready, and able to do hard things. And it's very difficult to work around, work in a system where not everyone has skin in the game.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's more just like, let me do the hard thing and don't make it harder.
Love what you just did. Yeah. You just like distilled that ramble that I just had into some, beautiful words. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And you keep choosing it. You've opened another business in this city, in this state, and you've found a way to show up and do that. And I think, again, not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, but I think that's what we loved about sport. Probably is like there is this feedback loop that feels like responsibility. You kind of do your best to put yourself in a position to have some success, and also
like there's something just amazingly human about sport and entrepreneurship. Yeah. At the level that we've gotten to, God willing, is now there's a team. Yeah. And now you can like lock arms, and that's something, I mean, of course you have like a golf or a whatever, bowling, like running. There are certain like, there's certain like solo pursuits that are also like equally impressive and amazing. But I think like what I learned most about sport and probably loved most about sport, and now about my life doing these things, is now I got the team,
Yeah, I think anybody who knows you probably thinks this, but this is something that shows up for me is I really admire and appreciate how multifaceted you are. It's not also surprising that you were an athlete. Do you carry a lot of what you experienced and learned in athletics forward, or were you an artist who also played sport? You know what I mean? Like, how do you think about that?
That's a great question, but I think I always, when I've like had this thought before that you just asked me, and I always think of my art teacher in high school. He was this guy, his name's Joseph Lee, but Mr. Lee. And Mr. Lee, I remember like I never in my life had like a good parent teacher conference.
Okay.
Like ever.
Were you a troublemaker? What was that about?
Yeah, and I wasn't like the worst. Like I always got like decent grades, and like I wasn't like a mean kid at all. Okay. But I was just like a class clown, as you can probably imagine, like, you know, or just like I would blurt out answers without raising my hand. I was just always kind of in the shit. Like I was never the favorite.
You're mixing it up a little bit. Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. Yeah. And so I remember my sophomore year of high school is like maybe the last of your like ever of like parent. I don't know if you do it like your junior or senior year.
I remember.
But I was very fortunate. My mom was very involved in my life and like really cared about those such sort of things. And I remember she came home and cried for like a half an hour with my dad and I'm like, fuck, like I really fucked up this time. But it wasn't because of anything I did negative. It was because it was the first time that she ever had like a really positive parent teacher conference. And it was inspired by this guy, Joseph Lee, Mr. Lee, who will probably see me when I post this, which is cool. We still keep up with each other, but he told my mom, you know, Nick's a football player. We get it. You know, he does 3 sports, whatever, but he's really an artist. And he proceeded to show my mom like all the stuff I had done that semester. And I was always obsessed with like street art, like from a young age. Like I loved like graffiti and like, you know, Shepard Fairey and Banksy and all that kind of stuff. And I was like always like making collages from magazines and like skate books and like all that kind of stuff. And I think it was the first time that like my mom, she always like wanted me to be in that world. And she was always like on family vacations, like taking 4 hours in an art museum with us. And we're like, oh my, you know? Yeah. And I have so much appreciation for that the older I get, and so much gratitude for her, but also for Mr. Lee, because he said that. And then he said it to me. And it was after I had seen my mom's reaction to that. And then he said it to me. He's like, you need to take this seriously. Not, you know, in a way, I don't think at the time he was saying it in a way like you could have a career in this, kid, or like, it wasn't that. It was just like, you're going around, you wear your jersey on campus, you're the big kid, whatever. He's like, but you actually have this soft, beautiful, empathetic, artistic side of yourself that you are ignoring, because you want to be with like your football bros and stuff. And I'll remember that for the rest of my life. And turns out most of my life has been guided by photography and writing and graphic design, making logos and whatever, like same stuff you do, you know. And so I've always carried that. But I think that story is important because that's like the first person that really like recognized that artistic side of myself. And yeah, it pretty much informs everything I do.
He nailed it for sure. At that time, we've talked before, shout out to Harvey Martin, who's a buddy of mine. And
I listened to that.
You heard that? Yeah. So, okay, great. So he talks a lot about bringing, well, our words, this subject object shift. So we're all subject to something, and making the characters we play and the different seasons of our life more objective. So when you were hearing these words at that time, were you sort of just playing the football character, not knowing that? Or
that's right, yeah, 100%.
And then when you heard it, did that like resonate? Or
yeah, it did. It affected me immediately. I mean, I still actually I remember going home and making a Pinterest board, and this is in like 2000. Let's see, it would have been like 2009 or 10.
Early Pinterest.
Yeah, it was like, you know, it was like not even like a thing, like
early adopter.
Yeah. And I'm an early, I was way ahead. Yeah. No, I'm not even saying it in that way. I'm just saying it in the way of like, I was so inspired that I went home and I like, it's funny. I'll share it with you, but it's like this collage of all my interests at the time, but it's super artistic. It's like Rene Magritte. It's like Salvador Dali. It's also Odd Future and like Tyler and like those guys. And like, it was just this amalgamation of all the things that I think like really made me who I was in that moment, but it maybe at large, like the bigger picture. And I think that Pinterest board, as funny as it sounds, is kind of the first time that I like tried something artistic, even though that's maybe not making a drawing or something. It was like the first time that I was like, oh yeah, I am interested in this, you know?
What's coming up as you say that, which, you know, it doesn't have to be as direct. So if someone's listening and they're like an athlete at this moment, this isn't just for y'all. I think everybody is maybe in a place of curiosity or transition. Can you help me understand from that moment on, you've sort of been told and seen in a new way, oh, I have this other side to me that maybe I wasn't aware of. And this is at the end of high school or sophomore year, you said?
Yeah, like right in the middle.
Okay,
yeah.
Middle of high school. Because you went on and played football in college, but I would imagine that wasn't necessarily a straightforward experience. Because earlier you said you started to think about this restaurant thing in college.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what college was like. When you're an athlete in college, it's a pretty full-time job.
Yeah.
But it seems like you found a way to hold capacity for multiple. Yes.
It was the beginning of the end.
Okay.
Really, kind of like my college football career was like the beginning of the end. I like, this is a hilarious thing to say. Also, my wife is the beginning of the end of my football career, but not
hell of a drug.
No, she, in the best way ever. Dakota, I don't think saw me as a football player ever. And we met, we knew each other in high school, but we started dating when we were 18. So we're basically high school sweethearts is kind of how I describe it. And we started dating when we went to USD. And I don't think from the beginning that she saw me as like this football jock guy. I think she like, I don't know how, but saw something a little bit deeper in me. So in college, I broke my arm at the beginning of my freshman year, and it was a big setback for me because, you know, I wanted to compete. I was like so eager. I'm still a very competitive person, and that moment was still all full on, you know, jock. But this like surfing thing had started to like really take a hold on me, and I had done it like here and there growing up. But like once I started dating Dakota, her family, her brother's like an amazing. I mean, he's a pro surfer, like opening wave pools and whatnot, and their family. And of course, the competitive side of me is like, fuck, I suck at this. I need to get better. So it had started to like creep into me. And then I broke my arm, and I'm kind of just sitting there and doing rehab, but kind of like just
training room.
Yeah. Just like kind of depressing almost. Like you're just like in there alone with the other like gray shirts, and you're like a little bit bummed out. And so that is like the first time that I started to kind of be like seeing like something that I didn't like about sport and about football specifically. And then that summer I had rehabbed it fully. So going into sophomore year, I actually had like the best spring of my life. Like I was playing the best football period, like of my life. I was playing running back. I was playing slot receiver. I had like fullback plays, like some wide out. And in high school, I was pretty much like tight end, outside linebacker. But I think I was a late bloomer on my athleticism, and our coaches saw that. So I had this amazing spring. I scored like 3 touchdowns in our spring game, and our team was insane. Like at that time, we have like still have 2 guys in the pros, which for a 1AA school is insane in football. And I went to Nicaragua during summer when there was an optional 2-week, you know, you can go to school 2 weeks early, and then Hell Week starts after that. I'm thinking this is optional, so I'm going to go with my wife's family to my father-in-law was cooking on the show for the crew on the set of Survivor, which was so sick in Nicaragua. I'm like, I'm going to go do this surf trip, and it'll be amazing. Went there, stuck to my training regimen to a T. I was literally lifting like rocks and shit on the beach. You can ask anybody in the family. I'm like literally doing like single arm like rock. I'm doing like beach runs, the whole deal. And then of course enjoying like some surf and that whole thing. I come back from that 2-week vacation, and I was like the black sheep after that. You know, because I didn't go.
It actually was optional.
The whole team, damn near the whole team was.
For anybody listening, it's never optional.
And I'm like a committed dude. So if you tell me like show up at this time, I'm gonna be there. Like you know. And so I became black sheep. Yeah. From there, I felt unfairly judged by that. one coach in particular that had the control over my destiny. And I started surfing before lifting or before practice, and I still showed up for everything. I was still playing really well, and they just took it from me, I think, in my spirit. And I started to see those other things fill my cup a lot more. So again, like, you know, a bit of a roundabout story, but I think at the end of the day, as soon as I started letting the more artistic or other athletic like pursuits creep into my being, like it really just took over. And I almost feel like Dakota, in a way, like gave me permission, which is why I think I'm so close to her and why we have such an amazing relationship. Is she kind of gave me that permission to be something else.
It's incredible.
Other than what I was supposed to be or what people saw me as my whole life. And like, how do you explain that relationship to someone when someone asks us, oh, you've been together forever? Or, you know, you have old people that are like, haven't you ever been curious? Or like these like very rude and passing things. It's like, well, you can't understand.
Yeah.
You can't understand what that person allowed me to do, whether they knew it or not, you know, and
Totally.
so I think that's.
Yeah. I gotta, you know, shoehorn this in as you say that, which is thought experiment here is interesting, which is, let's just say the attribute of curiosity in your life is a knob, and let's just say we could go back in time and just turn that down to 0. So let's like make you same guy, same talents, same interests, same life, dial down curiosity to 0. Probably changes the way you show up in things that are outside your role. You're probably not exploring art. You're probably not flipping through the Banksy books. You're not doing that stuff. And maybe you never get the feedback, external experience from, was it Mr. Lee?
Yeah, Mr. Lee.
Okay, Mr. Lee puts this bug in your ear that, hey, there's this other thing in there that I see that maybe you don't see yet. Maybe you never get that memo.
Yeah.
So many people are playing their character. The athlete one is a common one, who never receive external stimulus outside of that perspective. So they cannot perceive that they are anything other than this thing. So now we run the same drill, run the same arc of your life. Yeah. Okay. You break your arm, you do the optional thing, you start getting kind of maybe screwed over by a coach thing, and your role as athlete ends or becomes disinteresting. And how much more disorienting is that? You know what I mean? And so many people suffer from that, athletes specifically, but all kinds of folks. It's really jarring and problematic. I mean, this is where like the glory days problem comes from, and all these things that folks who are listening to this really suffer from is when when a role stops, when that is the limit of your self-perception ends. It's like a death, you know, and thank God you had this information, this experience, greater perspective, to where now that's just a transition, and maybe it even feels better than, you know, the previous role. You know, I look back so thankfully on having a little perspective of knowing I could be wanting to be an entrepreneur later, because it made getting released and not being an athlete anymore so much easier, you know. And I just think like the actionable step there from a expansion of consciousness perspective is, no matter what we're doing right now, I think we gotta be aggressive and proactive in our search for experiences outside of our little window.
Yeah, and just don't even draw the window, you know? Just like fuck the window, you know, break it. It's like, that's so well said. Yeah. And that is a huge problem, man. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of empathy for that. Yeah. And a lot of gratitude. I think that really, for me, probably, if you want to go all the way back, is probably stems from my parents allowing me to, you know, because I told my dad I don't want to play football anymore. And I was so nervous to tell him. He was a college athlete, the whole deal. And he was like, congrats, you just chose your life over a sport. And I was like,
that's big.
But it was the coolest. Oh my God, I couldn't even like.
That's big.
Yeah. And so if you don't have that, if you have someone that snaps now, if you have a dad or a brother or whatever, that's like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is the worst decision. You're an amazing athlete. That's what you're going to school for. But no, he just like took that and he's like, congrats.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a license right there to go experience the rest of yourself, you know?
Yeah. The freedom to do that, especially from a parent, is huge.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about X's and O's of just being an entrepreneur, if that's cool, and we'll see what jumps off from there. But I'm curious. I'm always curious about how people look at hiring, not from like necessarily a logistics perspective, but if you could wave a magic wand and look for or create the best attributes possible, like how do you think about that? Is that a skill-based thing? Is it some sort of intangibles? Like, do you have any things that you look for when you're trying to create your teams?
Absolutely. We don't hire based off skill at all.
Cool.
I feel like in our industry, the skills are very teachable. It's a very coachable industry. And I think people discredit other people's ability to learn, and I don't. So for me, the skills and the mechanics are very teachable. So what I'm looking for is openness. That's like super important to me, is just like open-mindedness, being willing to be bad at something, not know how to do latte art, not even know what dialing in an espresso machine is or whatever. If you're willing to just like walk the walk with me and say like, no, I don't know what that is, or can you teach me about that? That's like huge for me. And then the other one is just like, do I want to be around this person? Like simply, because I'm a very active, I'm very involved, in like what we do. And not to say that I'm like the source of like good vibes, but if this is somebody that I don't want to be around, then or I can't connect with in an interview, then I don't think I'll be able to, connect further after that. So I think those are the two big things, right? Because even if we hire someone that is a perfect fit of someone I want to be around, if they're not open to being, either having someone else be their leader, right? Like I have an amazing manager at Narwhal, but she's 20 or just turned 26 recently, but pretty young. Like you might be coming in with like more barista experience, more management experience, but like I'm not going to knock Thea off her peg because you have more experience. She knows what we're doing. So, right, like you could have all the experience and the vibes, but if you're not willing to like cruise into the system in a humble and like open manner, then I think those are the two most important things for me.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That's really it.
Yeah, I really think it's important to index on this, on the side of the coin that assumes malleability.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's
word,
been around here is rolling their eyes because I talk about this too much, but it's like to enroll in our coaches development program requires like one piece of reading, which is Carol Dweck's work. And it's basically the principle is that she creates two worldviews. The first is the fixed mindset, which sort of assumes that our traits are fixed. So if you're not a good latte artist out of the womb, then it's not ever happening. You know what I mean? And that's just a bummer perspective for a lot of reasons. But I can't work with those people because feedback sounds horrible if you have a fixed mindset. I mean, hey, that's shit latte art. That means this is a permanent truth about you forever. That's horrible, Right. But this growth mindset, the opposing worldview, sort of just starts from the premise that all of our traits are malleable. And so
totally,
it really frees up development, skill development.
100%,
so it's a big premise.
We have two on the like management side that I feel like you would love and maybe have already read. But have you read Let My People Go Surfing?
Of course.
Yeah. So that's one that I just like synthesized, and the other one is more specific to our industry. Is called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah.
Which is Will Guidara. Yeah, it's another great one. Who was a disciple of Danny Meyer, which had a book called Setting the Table, which is a little bit nerdier and like a little bit less fun in terms of story, but just like really, really great leaders, both of, all three of them. But yeah, I've sort of, you're maybe a little more ambitious or maybe a little bit of a better driver of responsibility because I don't make them read it. I just like synthesized it. I synthesized it and put my takeaways on it and make them read that.
I don't know. We're pretty tough around here. If I like take a step back, it's like this is a hard place to work at. It's a hard place to get a job at. It's tough. Yeah. Straight up. We have 20 copies of Setting the Table over there, so that was a secondary thing. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Huge. Massive concept from that just shout out to that book was
Danny Meyer's.
Yeah, the agent versus gatekeeper. Do you remember that one?
Good. So good.
Just a quick shout out to that.
Amazing. Yeah.
Gatekeeper perspective is from a customer service perspective is sort of taking this role that you stand between the customer and what they want. So the image is the maitre d' or whoever's answering the phone at a restaurant, sort of letting you know whether or not you get to eat their food, versus the agent approach, which is like, I'm here to do what I can to get you what you need.
Yes, 100%.
And that's such a cool shift. We talked 3 days ago about the premise of that book, Setting the Table, where do you remember the scene where there's the salt shaker on the table? So the reason why the salt shaker is on the front of the book is, and I don't even remember who he's talking to.
Yes, I vaguely remember.
It's like Danny Meyer's talking to some person that he looks up to, maybe, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the gentleman says to Danny Meyer, "I want you to put the salt shaker where you want it on the table." And she's like, "So I put it in the middle," or something like that. And then the guy just sort of moves it 3 inches to the side, and he's like, "Is that where you want it?" And he's like, "No, I kind of want it right here." And he goes, "Are you sure you want it right there?" He's like, "Well, actually," and then he kind of turns it a little bit. He's like, "That's exactly where I want it." And the guy just moves it, and it's like, "What do you do?" And he's like, Danny Meyer moves it back, and he's like, "This is the job forever. Putting the salt shaker back is the whole job. And any day that you think that that's not the job,"
So good. It's so good.
I know you're like, your skin is crawling because your whole life is putting things back where they're
That's
supposed to be.
literally my life. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's something that I'm working through that I figured, if you have any insight, you could chime in. Is I'm trying to paraphrase, but someone was talking about the arc of companies follows this track, and I was trying to view Deuce through this perspective, and now I'm thinking about your business through this perspective. So maybe let me try to articulate this, and then we can volley as to like where we're at. So the general premise is founder has a certain, we'll call it enough skills to start the thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe you have enough knowledge about food, enough knowledge about hospitality, enough knowledge about Microsoft Excel, whatever, to be the founder. And that's how that goes. And then the next stage is you start hiring other generalists. We've done that, right? So people who know enough about administrative and interpersonal skills and coaching that they can generally do what I can do, right? Then there's this next stage that we're sort of considering that is creating specialists, right? Where not everybody does everything, kind of thing. And then the final stage is hiring specialists. And so I'm just like reflecting on the structure of our business and that arc. Maybe the way we've thought about it up until this point is I've always said everybody here has to be able to do, and there's a list, but a certain amount of administrative tasks extremely well. And everybody has to be able to coach movement to a certain level really well. And what I'm sort of thinking about and wondering about is, do we need to move into a place where, we're just putting killers in the right spot to do the specific thing? How do you think about what you guys got going over there? Does everybody share a certain amount of tasks, or do you have, specialized killers in each spot? Does that bring up anything for you?
Like a little bit of both, I think. We're probably similar to you, caught I think a little bit in an in-between moment, and it is really a growth thing. Like I would like to have a few more assassins, that are just specialized in one area and own it. But I don't think that the resources are necessarily matching that ambition quite yet, and they will. It just takes time. So I think we're a little bit in an in-between. I would say Jack, who we talked about, and Dakota are two arms of the business that are kind of assassin focused. Dakota very much administratively and creatively on, branding and how things visually are presented. And then she's a CPA, so you're not getting anything by her on the finance and it's sort of admin side of it there. And then Jack with the kitchen, right? He's an assassin, absolute specialist, as top of his game, can kind of do that thing. I think I'm still this generalist role. And I think that I'm like, at Narwhal, I have another generalist, which I think in that space makes sense, in Thea, who I mentioned earlier. And then I think now I'm in the moment where I need to start identifying the assassins and then, rewarding them accordingly and putting them into these positions and giving them that responsibility. But I don't think we've done that yet.
Yeah.
I sort of know where I want to go with it, but I haven't like committed it to paper because, it's so new. Like Companion's not even a year old yet. I think we're starting to learn like, okay, that is the need. Let me commit this to paper and then let me start, drawing the plays because
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kind of like not a super direct answer. I think we're just, I'm feeling probably similar to you.
Totally.
I have the generalist and now I kind of need.
Yeah. And I think like one of the most honest ways to even talk about any of this is generally just this, like, the fact of the matter is we're making this up as we go along.
Yeah.
You
That's
know what
true.
I mean? And
yeah.
like there's
really
no
true.
like perfect execution of any one framework. As we get kind of close to the end here, I want to talk about change and like growth. I'm specifically really interested in development and what that looks like. So looking back before we look forward, are there any things that you've changed your mind about in your sort of like entrepreneurial journey, like beliefs you had early on that have changed, or things that you used to hold tried and true about how you operate that are different now? Anything come to mind?
I mean, yeah, I wanted to, build the biggest company ever and have like I had the most amount of ambition and competitiveness over like what this thing would become. And I told you when we were making coffees before this that I think about the fisherman story like every day now, where I don't think I would have ever considered that at the beginning of like the real like seed moment of Narwhal. I would have never been like, I think I'm pretty happy with like 2 retail concepts and like starting to explore some of the other creative sides of myself and be really great at those 2.
Yeah. I mean, not to put you on the spot for the parable, but like, can you share the gist of the parable?
Yeah, the gist of the parable is, there's a sustenance fisherman we'll just call it in a small village, and he fishes every day for as much fish as he needs to essentially pay the bills and feed his family. And, every day he's approached by, in the parable, I guess every day or every week he's approached by somebody that's saying, if you just got this, boat, this bigger boat and this, trawling mechanism and this net, you could capture more fish, and then you could scale that, and then we could build you a fish house where you could process all of the fish, and then we can get you trucks and you can distribute the fish. And the people that are presenting this idea just can't understand that the fisherman's like, if I do all that, then I don't get to fish.
Right.
And they're like, it's kind of the general gist.
And then you're like, well, then you'd have money.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have to do all the work. And then he's like, yeah, but then I would just, with all that freedom, I'll just go fishing.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like, and then that is, that's amazing. Right. So I think that's a huge change. Like a huge, huge change for me is like, I love what I do, and I'm working towards, I'm not quite there yet, but I like have enough, and like I want to be really great at that and be really like present for that, and then do things that I want to do, like sell wine to people at tables. I love talking to people and just doing that, sharing stories of winemakers that I love. I want to surf in the mornings. I want to talk to my friend Logan. Like these are the things that I want to be present for. So that's the biggest change for sure.
Yeah.
I'm still ambitious. I know you are, like we all are, but I think just like calming and quieting those ambitions and focusing on the things that you really want to do, and then recognizing if you're doing them, and then like, making your decisions from there. Oh shit, I did surf this morning before I hung out with my friend and recorded a podcast, and then I get to go sell wine tonight. Yeah. Hello, Yeah, like wake up,
This is supposed to be fun. 100%. Do you ever think about, this is shout out to the hiding hand principle. If you somehow knew, like if someone could show you or explain to you how difficult all these projects would have been in the beginning, like would you still have done them? And the hiding hand principle is like, shout out to a section in Going Right is sort of this premise that we benefit from not knowing how long and difficult these processes are. And, one of the things that you didn't have at the beginning of Narwhal or Companion or both is knowing that it would work out.
Yeah.
You didn't have that. But what you did have was ignorance, which is so beautiful.
Yeah.
People tell me now, they're like, hey, I run the experiment myself, which is like, would you go back to the park in the Bluffs and start again now, knowing it works out? And knowing the details of that, it makes me want to throw up in my mouth. You know what I mean? You sort of benefit from just doing the next thing. Yeah, in line. For sure. Well,
100%. Yeah.
Last piece is I find that it's helpful to share a model of leadership that sort of tells both sides of the story. I think that an observer of you from a distance would observe a successful person who makes it look easy, and people like that just do cool things like you're doing. And it leaves out a lot of probably what's true, which is that you're probably working through edges and difficult areas of your capacity in your life. And so I think it's helpful just for people in your position to share what it is that they're working on, where it is that they feel limited. Are there any sort of edges you're working on or ways that you think you need to grow to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I need to have more abundance, like in my mindset. I think I very much operate from scarcity, and that's an edge, a very sharp one for me that I struggle with.
In what way, if you don't mind me asking? Do you feel like, does it show up like there's only so many restaurants that can do well in LA? Is it like there's not enough money to go around? How does scarcity show up?
I think scarcity definitely, there's so many restaurants, right? So it's a competitive landscape. So, justifying what you're doing and hoping that it works feels sometimes futile. But I also think just like straight fiscally and monetarily speaking, right? Like you're blissfully ignorant. You move through this thing, you make Narwhal work, and now it's paying your bills, and you have a little bit left over to get a new ice machine if it breaks or some whatever, like these things that bring you a little bit of comfort and allow you to kind of plunge the next step. You start saving your money, and you spend it all again, and you go back into that thing. And and then after you spend it all, right, it's like it still requires some money from you. And that's something as like a ignorant novice entrepreneur, I didn't really understand or have never understood cash flow very well and how it works and how long it takes. So I've had a very scarcity, like, holy, did I bet the boat on this and it's over? But it's not, you figure it out and you like keep moving through it. And I think part of, maybe this is a little esoteric and woo woo, but I think, and I've learned a lot of this from Dakota too, I think part of success is just having the mindset that you're going to be successful, and that abundance is there for you. It's there for me. It's there for Ernie. It's there for whoever, it's there for all of us. But like, you have to believe that. Yeah, you just do. And so that's a big edge for me, is like, I've really, the past, let's just call it like 6 months or so in the Companion journey, have been like struggling with that. Like, we're going to be all right. This investment was worth it, and the community understands it and wants to be a part of it and loves it. And like, you're going to have financial success. You're going to have whatever, like emotional success. Like, it's going to work out. I've had to really do a lot of self-work on that. That's been hard for me. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful time over there from a patron's perspective. Thanks. So keep doing that. 2 final questions. The bigger one is, what do you see in the future for those projects? Does that seem clear, or right now it's kind of head down? What's the future?
Yeah, I think right now I want a really special dining experience, and I want a really special wine list. So I think those 2 things are keeping me really grounded in Companion. I think I want to be just happy with those 2. I think opening another one at this moment is not super interesting to me. I think I have what I'm looking for. I have that morning community and I have that evening community. And I feel proud of it. So I think being happy with that and shifting gears, we have a e-commerce brand that I launched with a business partner of mine named Brian called Sunny Day. And I've been really enjoying that journey with him. He's a brand builder. He's done a lot of amazing projects, and just learning from him and like getting kind of that like creative Boogie Woods spark again, but not having like it all rest on my shoulders has been a really invigorating and just motivating experience. And just the collaborators we have on that, our other business partners, like Emma is just a creative force. So learning.
What does that brand do, by the way?
It's coffee. It's coffee. Okay. So Narwhal started as a coffee roaster and whatnot. And so we sort of rebranded all of that and like pushed all of our wholesale customers into this new branding called Sunny Day. It's named after my buddy Brian's daughter, Sunny, cool. Which is cool. And it's just a more approachable, more easily understood than Narwhal with a G, like gnarly. So it's been a little bit easier to hustle that and just like grow that. So cool. I think those two things are making me happy. And then I just want to like, I kind of want a house right now where I can like grow some vegetables and surf, you know?
Yeah. So respect. Cool, man. That's really amazing. And I totally see you crushing that. My last question is, I'm sort of shoehorning this in here. The backstory is, one of the intangible ways that we evaluate our training experience here is, one, the science and the methods have to check out and face critique internally and be legit and all that. And the more fun way to look at it is like this. Someone has to be able to land at LAX and get in a Uber and come directly to the gym and experience only one day here and get back in the Uber and fly back to France or wherever they're from. And that one singular experience has to be incredible. So my question is, let's say the person flies in from France, they have one day in LA, and they Uber directly to Narwhal. And then after that experience, they go to dinner at Companion. What's your advice as to what they should order? And just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, at Narwhal, I would say probably a cortado and like a matcha would be like the 1-2 right there. I just feel like we really nail those, and I'm really proud of what we do on that. Also, Tom's favorite drink to full circle this is a cortado. So like from the beginning, he's a harsh critic, a very, very harsh critic. From the beginning, it's like everyone at Narwhal knows like we need to make a banging cortado. so definitely get a cortado. And then I would say at Companion, like a perfect setting for me would be if we had more than 2 people. So I'm going to lay it out. Yeah. I think like a 4-person dinner is like a perfect size at Companion. Okay. And you go focaccia with the dip trio that we just put out, which is insane. You have to come try. Okay. Radiatore. That's my favorite pasta on the menu. I love the bolognese, but it's got to be radiatore. I'd go like probably Caesar salad.
Which is incredible, by the way.
Actually, I'm going to reassess this.
Okay.
I'm going to go focaccia, meatballs. Okay. So that's my little starter. I'm going to go Caesar salad because that's just comfort food. Okay. Scratch the radiatore because I got my red sauce on the meatballs. And I'm going to go bolognese, chicken Milanese, and a pizza. Klaus is bomb. Yeah. Incredible. Sausage pizza.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to get a bottle of champagne to start.
Yeah.
Probably Les Large Peugeot.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do, right now, probably like a soft, nice, silky, like easy red wine from the middle of the list.
Love it. Now we're all hungry.
We kind of balled too on that dinner. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Nice. Respect, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked you, or anything else that you?
No, but I think a thing that I kept thinking about on this, which is that there's some irony to this, but I think the coolest part about what we just did is that I didn't think about anything else for this like little time slot.
Moment there,
yeah, and it's like you're so just dialed in. There's like insane people on Lincoln and cars everywhere, and like construction, and we have a million things on our to-do list, I bet, like respectively between the two of us. 100%. And I didn't think about any of that shit, except for thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about any of that, which is, I guess, the funny part. But
yeah, that's a blessing. I really enjoyed it selfishly.
Yeah, me too. So. Yeah, it's been a really nice little reprieve from the day.
Yeah, keep it
Yeah.
up. I admire you. You're doing great work.
Same
and,
here. We also both went to USD.
Shout out.
Toreros.
That's it, baby. Yeah, when
They ask me for money every month.
Yeah, when you were talking about your broken arm, I was like, was he in there hanging out with Carolyn Greer and all the same trainers?
Probably, honestly, yeah. Carolyn Greer, wow.
I tried to stay out of there.
As much as possible, yeah.
As much as possible.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah,
I love it.
Awesome.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Love everything you're doing.
All right, guys, I loved sitting down with Nick. Keep in mind that this is a gentleman who is running a coffee shop and a new restaurant simultaneously and somehow makes time to defend and explore his creativity. I think that's really admirable. I don't think we can afford as a society to support soulless businesses. And as long as people like Nick Monica are taking on risk to bring value to the world, that's where I will spend my money. Speaking of coffee shops, our next episode is a full-length conversation with a legend from season 1 of the Hold a Standard podcast. Hell, I even wrote an entire chapter about him in my book, Going Right, A Logical Justification for Pursuing Your Dreams. Christopher Nicely Alameda is world-renowned in the coffee community. Nicely has won several World Latte Art Championships and has spearheaded the openings of many of Los Angeles's best coffee scene staples. Nicely leaves a wake of positive influence in the coffee culture behind him, and he became the personification in my book for deliberate practice. We know that not all time practicing a craft is created equal. Nicely proves that with the asymmetrical expertise he has developed behind bar. I hope you'll tune in and enjoy the episode.
You can use the opportunity of having 300 reps a day to build upon, to build your flow, you know what I mean? That helps you, just get better from one day to the next, because you're getting so many repetitions that then by the time you go into a latte art competition, you've done thousands of reps, Now getting used to that moment, those 2.5 minutes where you've got 300 people looking all at you, these two people going head to head, and you've got that one moment to, execute, that's all you got to get used to because you've already put, the time in on bar, you know what I'm saying? Now we're just applying it to this environment.
Yeah, that's right.